Well, hey, everybody, welcome to the Seeing Ability podcast, where we're having our conversation about the world of people with disabilities. And that means we're going to be talking, in some cases, to parents who are raising kids with disabilities, to adults who grew up as that kid, and a lot of people that support that community. It might be nonprofits, it might be folks in education, folks in healthcare. Now, first of all, I know you got a lot of choices when it comes to what you listen to, so we really appreciate you tuning in today. I think you're going to love this episode because this is one of our nonprofit spotlight episodes. But we've also got actually three of the things I just mentioned. We've got a parent who's raised a kid with a disability. We've got an adult who grew up with a disability, and they both are engaged in a nonprofit. So it's kind of the trifecta today. So Sue and Brittany, thanks for being here. Welcome.
Thanks, Jim. We're very happy to be here.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I always start off getting to know our guests just kind of with some fun questions so people kind of know your personality and know you a little bit. So we'll ask each of you what I call the fast four. Now, I got some friends at Reliable Tech Help that help sponsor this little segment. And for all your tech needs, don't forget to reach out to Reliable Tech Help. They're at 502-797-7399. So we'll start with you, Sue. What is your favorite food?
Ice cream.
Ice cream. Brittany, how about you? Favorite food?
Sushi.
Sushi. I love it. Okay. What about favorite band or musician type of music? We'll start with you, Brittany.
What kind of music do you like?
Broadway.
Loud.
Broadway 80s.
Uh-huh.
And Whitney Houston.
And Whitney
Broadway
Houston. Okay.
80s, Whitney
And what
Houston.
about you, Sue?
Oh, I'm an Elton John, Billy Joel fan from way
Okay,
back.
I love it. What about starting back? Now we'll stay with you, Sue. A favorite TV show?
Oh, gosh. I must have watched The West Wing about 900 times. And every time there's
Okay,
an
West
election
Wing.
year, I go to that.
Brittany, how about you? TV show?
Let's say I want to be like a bride.
So what was that?
That's yes, it does.
Say yes to the dress.
Say yes to the dress. That's a good one. Okay. And then what's a place that you'd like to go, like on vacation that you've never been before?
England.
Brittany, how about you? What's that?
England.
England. Oh, the UK. I love it. And Sue, how about you?
I think Italy is top on my list.
Italy. Can't beat that. All right. Well, again, welcome, ladies. So, Sue, I'll start with you. Obviously, this whole journey of being a parent of a kid with special needs is an unexpected one for most parents. You know, we do have adoptive parents that we talk to that kind of sign up for it and know going in, but it's kind of a curveball, if you will, for most parents. And so talk a little bit about what that was like for you guys. And also you talk with a lot of parents now with your organization. What advice do you give people on kind of like dealing with, acknowledging, but then moving through that early stage?
Okay. Well, for us, it definitely was a curveball. Brittany is the second of our children. We have Brittany has a typical brother who's 3 years older than she is. And he was a typical 3-year-old when Brittany was born. We had no prenatal testing. It wasn't necessary at the time. We went in on Brittany was a little bit early. She was, as she likes to say, she was due on my birthday.
Yeah.
And I was not particularly happy about that. So she complied, and she was born about a week before on March 19th. And it was a typical birth. We were thrilled. My husband was so excited. He had his son, and now he had his little girl. And as soon as Brittany came out, I took one look at her and I said, there's something going on here. She just looked really floppy. She looked like a little sack of potatoes when they held her up. And I asked the nurses immediately, what's wrong? What's going on? And they were very quick to let me know that she had 10 fingers and 10 toes. And I wasn't, that just didn't do it for me. I knew there was something else. So I persisted. And they finally said to me, yeah, the NICU nursery is coming down to take a look at the baby. So
Okay.
I didn't know Down syndrome at that point. I had no idea, but I knew that there was something in Brittany's muscle tone that just was a little bit off.
Sure.
And the doctors came down. We had pretty much an immediate diagnosis.
Mhm.
They, did a couple of visual tests, and it was very evident. And we learned about an hour after she was born that she had Down syndrome.
Yeah. And so how your own journey of the emotions of that, and then how do you counsel other people to like recognize but figure out a way to move through that part?
It was definitely a shock. There's no other way to put it. It was definitely a shock for both my husband and I. I was a special education teacher at the time, ironically, but I had a classroom of learning disabled students in a public school. I knew nothing about Down syndrome. We were seriously at the beginning terrified, basically because we knew we could throw out all the guidebooks that we had originally had in our heads, and we knew we were on a different path. And we
Yeah.
were terrified because we didn't know anything. We didn't know anything about Down syndrome. So it was the unknown that really got us. Once we regrouped, and as a family, we regrouped pretty quickly and started to do some research and started to look for programs that really helped us move through you have to call it grief. There's no other word to say. And
Mhm.
if moms and dads say that they didn't go through this period of adjustment and transition because you're just on a different path,
Mhm.
they wouldn't be telling the truth. So
Right.
you have to go through that. You have to go through all the emotions. You have to let yourself feel all the emotions and the concern and the fear. And then you have to come out the other side. And we all do eventually. It just takes everyone, a different time frame to find this out. But you realize pretty quickly sometimes that this little thing is a baby first, and they
Yeah.
are your baby, and you love them because they're yours. And very quickly you put things together and move and start to move. And once we got on the path to finding some support, finding an infant program that Brittany went to immediately. She was 6 weeks old at that point when we took
Yeah.
her to her first school, quote unquote. Um, and we tell parents the same thing now that we're working with Brittany's Baskets of Hope. You need to feel the feels, you need to go through the emotions in whatever time frame it takes you, but realize that this is your baby and this is a baby first, and the Down syndrome is secondary. And you'll deal and you'll find a way, and there are supports for you.
That's amazing. Now, Brittany, I have a question for you because I know you and your mom are really close. Tell the folks I'm sure there's a long list, but what are one or two things that you love most about your mom?
Mommy's amazing because you know why? Because the reason why I noticed this before I was born, mommy always there for me as a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Than most right now. Than
Yeah,
daddy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're there for you.
I can
We're a
tell you
team,
guys are
right?
really
Yeah.
close. So you talked about kind of reaching out for resources and things. What recommendations do you give to parents as far as like finding that support and kind of building that community that's going to support them?
That's the key to new parents. We were very lucky when Brittany was born, almost 35 years ago. The education system was a little bit different. Now services still begin as infants, but when Brittany was a baby, we took her to a center-based program when she was 6 weeks old.
Wow.
And as crazy as it was, it gave us the opportunity to get back out into a community with this baby, a community that understood. And we found other moms and dads who were going through the same thing in the same time frame. So we were very lucky at that point in time to have that kind of a system. Today, we talk to moms all the time, and sometimes they struggle at the beginning because they are a little bit more isolated, based on the nature of the infant programs, which are done in the home, which is wonderful, but you don't get that sense of community, and you don't get that sense of immediate contact with other parents who are, at the same point in the journey that you are. So we always tell parents to look for that community. It's a little bit more work for parents these days, but the internet is an amazing thing. So to reach out, in our baskets, we always give suggestions for the large Down syndrome associations and the
Mhm.
local, when we know them, the local Down syndrome associations. So parents can start to reach out and talk to other parents, because special ed teachers and therapists are wonderful, but there's nothing that matches the conversation that goes on with another family who are exactly in the same place that you are.
Yeah, that's really important. And like you said, the whether it's a center-based model or home-based, finding that community because nobody gets it like somebody that's been in those shoes. I think that's
Yes.
great advice. And then we are lucky because, both of us 35 years ago for Brittany, 24 years ago for Sophia, the internet wasn't as big of a thing then.
Right.
So today, for all the things sometimes we get frustrated with the online experience, this is the great thing about it. The ability to connect, the ability to also see those stories of other families, because I think early on,
Yeah.
those positive stories, seeing, okay, there is a future, because sometimes parents are just worried about what all parents worry about their kids' future. Let's not the kid there. But
Absolutely.
for parents on this journey, the worry is, multiplied. So that's really good advice. And those centers, the organizations in your local community, they're kind of a one-stop shop in terms of just their expertise and the services and the programs they provide, their knowledge of the journey, but then their connection, like you said, to that community, those parents who are just going to nod their head like you're doing now
Yep.
because they
Yep.
get it, because they get it. I totally love that.
Exactly.
I totally love that. So we talked a little bit about worrying just a second ago about your kid's future. And again, it's a bit of an illusion to think if you mentioned Brittany having sibling that's typically abled. It's an illusion to think the path is predetermined for that typically abled kid, right? The nothing will humble you like being a parent. But for parents who are worried about their kid's diagnosis early on and they're just kind of consumed in those early years with what'll happen when they grow up, what would your advice be?
I think how we approached it, and I think it has worked for us, and I think other parents, have taken the same approach, is like with any typical kid, you take it one step at a time.
Mm,
When you have a baby, and I'm borrowing this from another organization, and I wish I could give credit to it. But you measure typical babies are measured in milestones. When they start to crawl, when they start to walk, what was their first word. I think the disability community, someone in the disability community coined inch stones, which I absolutely love and I use whenever I can, because when you look at a child with Down syndrome, for example, it's going to take them a little bit longer to reach those milestones. It's going to take them a little bit longer to walk or to form their first word. But yet there are so many little incremental goals along the way that they're making toward that larger goal. So I like to remind parents that we're looking at inch stones and celebrate those little milestones, and the big ones, will eventually come.
I love that. I'd not heard that inch stones. I'm
Mhm.
glad everybody got to hear that with me. So you're obviously pretty proud of this young lady sitting next to you. Tell us, for those who have never met Brittany, and you were there, obviously getting that diagnosis 1 hour later. When you look at the young adult she is today, what are some of the things you're most proud about that she's accomplished?
Brittany's got a long line of accomplishments as a young adult, but even going back to when she was a baby, when she was a kindergartner, we've been very lucky because Brittany has hit kind of all the waves in education going
Mhm.
through. So when she was a baby, and I was in special ed, so I did have a little bit more knowledge about a school system. Um, so when Brittany was a baby, and when Brittany was in kindergarten and came into our school district, it was the very beginning of inclusion, which is co-teaching, whatever the version of it is today. But there are
Sure.
two teachers in the room, and they were looking for five kindergartners with disabilities to be the special education students in this inclusion program. I had been working with the school district on the Committee for Preschool Special Education as a
Mhm.
volunteer. So they knew what I wanted. I knew what they could provide. I knew what they needed at the time. So it was a perfect fit. Brittany was one of 5 kids in kindergarten who began the inclusion program in our public school system.
Oh,
She
pioneer.
went, it's a tremendous thing. And I really think that it has laid the foundation for Brittany being who she is. Her special education preschool was wonderful, and it prepared her academically, socially, physically to fit in with typical kids. And she was in the inclusion program all the way up through middle school. When
Mhm.
high school came and regents started and, credits began, it was just, not an appropriate placement anymore for Brittany. And
Sure.
also a typical, 15, 16-year-old Brittany is not on their emotional level, their social level. So, at this point, we needed to find Brittany's own peers.
Yeah.
And that's when she went into a more contained program in high school.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think is the balance between, I know there's, whether it's school, whether it's like sports, different activities, the times where it's really helpful and beneficial to be sort of included and mixed with everybody in that world, and the times where it's also helpful to be in more of a segmented community for the kid and the parents. There's probably appropriate times for both. What would your advice be for younger parents on kind of the ability to move in and out of those worlds?
Yeah, you have to know your child first, and you have to be honest. I mean, everyone thinks their child is wonderful, and everybody thinks their child can do anything. And that's what we have to do. We have, as parents, we have to feel that way. But I always tell new parents, you have to temper that a little bit, and you have to be brutally honest when you're looking at an integrated program or an inclusion program with typical kids. We would all like to think in a perfect world that our children with disabilities are welcomed with open arms. And sometimes that's the case, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's appropriate, but many times it's not. And when you start to force a round peg in a square hole, it's not going to work.
Mm.
And the one thing I always tell parents coming into a school district, and I feel fairly confident saying this because I've sat on the side as a parent, I've sat on the side of that table as an educator, and
Yeah.
I've sat on the side of that table as an advocate. Um, when your child is going into kindergarten or is in early elementary, you really need to hone that relationship with your school district. Whether you like them or not, whether you like what they're offering or the programs that they have, this is a relationship that you're going to have until your child is 21 or 22 years old. You can't form an adversarial relationship when they're 6 and expect to
That's a
get
good
through
point. That's
the
because you got a lot of
ensuing
years
years.
ahead of you.
You have a lot of years. Obviously, you know your child best, but you don't always know the mix of the class, the qualifications of the teacher, the rigorousness of the curriculum. So there are a lot of factors that factor into this inclusion experience that you don't know. And sometimes you have to give a nod to the professionals in the room. Sometimes the professionals just don't want to take on the extra work. And that's valid too. And that's real that the parents like us are dealing with. But I
Yeah.
think most educators out there, I happen to be very optimistic. I think most educators out there will meet you as far as they can go. Um, and you have to develop this relationship, and you have to be brutally honest with your child when you really, Brittany was told no several times going through the inclusion program. We had a psychologist say going into middle school, oh, they're going to eat her alive. There's going to be no way. She should go to not a special class, she should go to a special building now because she's going into middle school, and middle schoolers are tough. And I was blindsided and horrified and fought like a tiger for her opportunity to try it.
Right.
Um, and it worked. For us, it worked. But you know what? If it hadn't worked, then we would have dealt with the failure, so to speak, and we would have backtracked and we would have done something else. But at least we would have tried.
Yeah, there are so many good things to unpack in that. I mean, that whole idea of not assuming it's not going to work, but let's try it and see, almost assuming, let's see if it does work. I think sometimes people's assumption in a given situation is that's going to be challenging, so it stops, but why not try it is a big one. And then your real honest assessment of like, we all think our kids are perfect, and try to be really honest about their strengths and their challenges, because also kind of removing yourself of, this is not about you, it's about them and what's best for
Mhm.
them. Because sometimes as parents, we can tend to get too involved, like that parent on the sideline of an athletics competition where they're so excited, you almost think they're the one on the court, and that
Yes.
it's hard always to separate yourself from your kids, and that objective lens. That's really, really good advice. Now, you guys obviously have your own journey, but you've also now turned that into helping others. So, Brittany, I think it was your idea to tell us about these baskets. Where did that all come from? I see you've got one right there.
There's a basket right
Yeah.
here.
That's
How
Now
did
this,
you,
I heard this was your idea, right? The
Diamond.
baskets.
this was your idea?
Yes,
How did you think of this?
because I know I have Down syndrome too. Because I know I
Oh,
have it.
Mm-hmm. And what did you
yeah.
want to do for new families?
I want to give them hope, happiness, and joy inside of those babies. I want them to know the babies with Down syndrome can do anything, really, really anything. So all special needs out there, I hope you can make some baskets with me. If you want to, go ahead.
I love that. So yeah, give them hope and let them know that their kids can do anything. So you got this idea. This was how long ago did it
When did
start?
we start? 2000,
16.
2016.
Okay, 2016. So gosh, that's what, coming up on 8 years?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh boy.
And how many baskets have we sent out to families right now?
3,000.
Mm-hmm. We've sent out over
3,000.
3,000 baskets, which that means we've touched 3,000 families and showed them, from the very beginning that this is a baby to be celebrated. Because as we said before, most parents hear, I'm sorry. And what did we want to say? Instead of I'm sorry,
Congratulations.
congratulations.
Congratulations. Absolutely. So Brittany, walk us through, and both of you, what kind of things are typically in a basket? What would a parent
Well,
get?
we have people who donated like things, like little things like pacifiers
Mhm.
or I don't know what else.
Books.
So a lot of your items are
Yeah.
donated, you said?
Uh-huh.
Yes, and we have a wish list we have an Amazon wish list on our website. So if anyone, chooses to donate, they can send things that we absolutely need and we put in our baskets all the time.
Oh,
But you were
fantastic.
talking
So
about-
again, I don't think we tell us the name of the organization.
Okay. What's the name of the organization? What are we?
Brittany's Baskets of Hope.
Brittany's
Brittany's
Baskets of Hope.
Hope. I love it. And what is your website?
Your website.
Brittany'sBasketsOfHope.org.
That's way too simple. I love it. It's good when
It's very
occasionally
simple.
life is simple, right? I like it when a website is simple. So
And
you're saying
it's usually one of the first choices that you come up, when you Google it, and all of the information about the organization is on there. It is a non-for-profit, and it was Brittany's idea in 2014. She came home, she saw a video at work, and she said, I want to help babies with Down syndrome. And we looked at her and we said, oh, that's lovely. And we promptly forgot about it.
Yes.
Yep.
But she was persistent, and she came back several times and said, I really want to do this. So then we really thought that,
'Cause I have disability with Down syndrome. That's how mommy carried me.
right, you do. And you want to show everybody that your life is,
Amazing and a good one.
absolutely.
Amazing and a good one. I love that. And I
So
forgot to ask you, Sue, like outside of the school journey, what other kind of things has Brittany been involved with in terms of like extracurriculars or hobbies or things she does? Obviously now she does nonprofit work a lot, but over the years, what were some of the things she was involved with?
What did you do when you were in high school and when you were little? What kind of things?
Dancing.
Dancing,
Dancing. Okay.
swimming,
Yeah.
gymnastics, horseback riding. And in those things when she was in school, it was a combination of, inclusion in typical, like she was in a typical gymnastics class,
Yeah.
and she rode horses through Special Olympics, and she
Okay.
swam through Special Olympics.
Yeah.
So
So it
kind
was
of
a
did both.
combination of integrated with typical kids when she could, and and sports where it was better and easier and better for her to keep her with her peers that had disabilities.
And in those years, you had your chauffeur's cap, and you did a lot of driving to a lot of activities, like most parents, right?
Like most parents of typical kids, yes. I would drive one way, for my son and drop him off, and I would drive the other way for Brittany and stay with her and watch her.
Still, because that's why mommy can't help me.
Right. Well, yes. The only thing we haven't done is drive, right?
Yes.
Right. So with 3,000 baskets, I assume it's not just local there in Long Island.
Is it local?
You do
How do we get
baskets where?
How do we get baskets to people?
Miss Morgan,
Yeah, and how do we get the baskets to them?
I mail them.
Mm-hmm. If we have a
Okay.
Long Island baby, we visit, which is Brittany's favorite thing to do.
Hold them.
Get to hold them.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
and we meet with them face to face. But most of the 3,000 baskets that we've sent out have been through the mail. So our beautiful little adorable baby baskets, quote unquote, become packing boxes and packing envelopes.
Not like this
Okay.
one.
And
That's
Brittany
all
and her
special.
staff try to fit as many of our goodies as we possibly can
Yes.
into
And
the
so
bag.
are they going, how far do they go?
We've hit what?
We have one overseas, right?
Well, we had one in Puerto Rico, but how many states?
50?
All 50 states. Yep.
All 50 states. That's
We've hit
amazing.
all
Okay, because
50
we've got
states.
listeners all over. They might be checking out that website of yours. And
I hope they
recommend-
do. We looked into sending things internationally because we do have requests from people in England, people in Australia, people in Canada. But interestingly enough, each one of those countries has an organization or several organizations that do the same thing we do. So it's kind of like territorial. So if we have a request for
Sure.
someone in England, we'll connect them to our English counterpart. It just makes it much easier in terms of shipping and connecting. Our resources are United States. That's
Yeah.
not going to make any difference to somebody in India or
That makes
somebody in
total
Africa.
sense. And if folks haven't checked it out, I love looking at your Facebook page. You guys have a very active presence on social media and no shortage of adorable faces to share.
Yep. As one of when we have a request for a basket,
Morgan.
right, Morgan, our secretary,
Chris.
is in charge of the social media and the initial paperwork and
Chris.
stuff. Right, Morgan and Chris. And there's a little box at the bottom that says, "Can we share your baby's photo?" And most parents check that box. So once we get the permission, we're able to post the babies on our website. And then, of course, once you establish a relationship with these families, they keep us posted. This is the first birthday party, or this is their first steps. So we've really kind of adopted 3,000 families who we're very close to when we watch the progress of these babies. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's amazing. And I'm sure you get a lot of feedback. Any stories or anything that sticks out to you where parents said how much it meant to them?
We find that mostly in the relationships that we've developed on Long Island.
Yeah.
Because when we're talking to a family in Illinois, yeah, they're invested in us and we're obviously invested in them, but they have their supports.
Sure.
We become supports to families, who are kind of local. Actually, there's one interesting story. A family that we absolutely adore on Long Island has a little boy, Noah, and we adore Noah.
Yeah.
And the mom sent me a text the other day. The infant services are looking to put him in a program at 2. Like, what should I do? This is my baby. And we went back and forth, and I went over and we had coffee, and it was a lovely, lovely relationship. And, she was looking at us as being a little bit farther along on the journey and having gone through the steps that she's going through now. So, there are a lot of families that touch our hearts. And the other thing, what about our heart babies?
Heart condition.
There are a lot of babies that are born with Down syndrome have medical conditions.
Sure.
Many have cardiac issues. So we're always deeply invested in our cardiac babies, and we have little hearts that actually knitters and sewers make that we put in the baskets, just in recognition of a baby that's gone through a tough time, and parents that are facing infant cardiac surgery. I can't think of anything more terrifying. But modern medicine is amazing, and the babies come out, and we call them our heart warriors. So, we get invested in the families, and it's reciprocal. So it's a lot of fun.
So I'm sure there's going to be people hearing this that are like, I love these ladies and I love the work they're doing. What are your biggest needs right now?
What are our biggest needs?
I don't know. No.
Okay. Actually, we are a nonprofit, and we exist on the generosity of others. We've been extremely lucky with some really lovely large money donations, and just to kind of, we do need things off the wish list, just the small items, your baby's favorite book, if you wanted to send that to us, or, as Brittany said, pacifiers and bibs and little outfits for newborns. But the biggest, I think the biggest thing that has happened to Brittany, and financially and economically for Brittany's Baskets of Hope, is that in 2019, she was the L'Oréal Paris Women of Worth National Honoree.
Whoa.
So L'Oréal picks 10 women every year, and they come to each of the women's hometowns, and they do a video about that person and their nonprofit to celebrate women, and to tell everyone that they are indeed worth it.
Yeah.
We had a gala in Manhattan. Brittany went for 3 days with one of her staff, to classes and incredible seminars. And then I joined her for the gala, where she was voted as the national honoree for Women of Worth. So with that came a tremendous influx of money that has helped us, do what we need to do. And the wall you see behind us, we have a brand new house with a very unfinished basement. And 2 years ago, the home improvement show George to the Rescue came and rescued us. And twice. They came and they renovated a third of our basement into an office for Brittany and her staff, and a distribution center. So we have beautiful places to put our supplies and a table to assemble everything. So it has really incredibly helped us make a smooth process out of getting baskets to everyone that needs them. It was amazing. So we've had a lot of luck. We've had a lot of very generous sponsors, but it's actually the parents, the women, the knitters and crocheters out there. Every week, 2 to 3 times, we have FedEx come to our front porch and drop off a gigantic box of handmade knitted booties and blankets and hats, which has become a staple in the basket. Every baby gets a hand knitted blanket. And we have women who love to knit, and I understand that knitters take their knitting everywhere. So we are the beneficiaries of that talent. So we're very, very grateful for our volunteers.
It's obviously a labor of love for both of you and the work you do. And that's one of the fun things I love about these episodes, is just kind of showcasing people doing good work. And in your case, you're not only people doing good work, but you're the people who went through the journey and now you're helping others. So that's really, I really thank you ladies for what you're doing. Pleasure having you on the podcast today. I hope lots of people check out that website. Again, brittany'sbasketsofhope.org. Check out these ladies, check out their social media and all the great stuff they're doing. And you'll be won over by all those pictures that you see there, because they're pretty amazing. So thank you ladies for being here today.
Thanks so much, Jim. We really appreciate it.
I want to know, right? Next month,
yeah,
the 15th comes up. It's my birthday.
Your birthday, okay. And I think when this comes out, it might be in March, so it might be your birthday month. So that's pretty exciting.
No, why
and for For
Yeah.
those of you who are listening here today, we again want to thank you, and we could use your help. If you can go to seeingability.org, you'll check out the Facebook page and like that, follow the Facebook page and share those, especially with folks on this journey with others in the community. Ladies, thanks for being here. We'll see everybody next time.
Thank you.
Yeah.